Billy Garrett, Innovative.
VP.
Kelly Chambers with G7 Service Group.
Becky Bickenhoe with Bank of Oklahoma. I'm also the treasurer and chairman of the conference committee.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming this morning. It's 9 a.m. It's an early one. Eric insists on getting us out at 9 a.m. to see who all will show up on time, and I think we all made it. So thank you so much. I hope you all had a pleasant evening last night. I'm Chad Rulo. I'm the CEO and co-owner of First Rate Field Services and the current president of NAMFS. So shall we begin?
Absolutely. I'll walk down here.
All right, so as Eric indicated, the purpose of this session is for you to provide us with feedback, questions, open dialogue. We want it to be light, we want it to be informative. Feel free to ask the questions. I'm not gonna walk in front of the rest of this beautiful executive team that works very hard for all of our members, seriously, very hard for all of our members. So yeah, let's ask some questions, let's get some feedback. We'd love to hear it, good, bad, and ugly. Just let's not get too ugly, please. If we could just keep it professional and collaborative.
And when I do bring the mic to you, if you could just kind of say who you are and what company you're with. On the stage, you really can't see who you are, so.
And thank you for breaking the ice.
No problem. My name is Jeff Gutowskis. I'm from 22 Hill. I'm an inspection vendor based out of Connecticut. And here's my question. I attended my first NAMFS conference last year, and since then I've spoken with numerous regionals, former members, non-members, and close to 100 inspectors. I'm consistently hearing the same thing when it comes to joining NAMFS. What's the point in joining? Nothing changes. If anything, it gets worse. If those individuals were sitting here today, what would you say to them? And more importantly, what's actually being done to change that perception? Because in some circles, the organization is being viewed as out of touch with or working against the interests of the field.
Thanks, Jeff. I actually anticipated that question coming from you. So that's fantastic. I think that if you're a non-member of NAMFS, you're certainly on the outside, and you wouldn't have direct knowledge of the efforts that we have done in the last year and a half under Chad's leadership. There have been so many changes and partnerships that we've been working with. So we finally got, Chad kind of gave a long list of accomplishments yesterday. I don't want to repeat them, but some of them are important. We definitely have engaged the MBA. So NAMFS and MBA now are connected so that NAMFS has a voice with the different MBA property preservation groups and the LAC meetings and being invited to just give more feedback. I believe there's actually a podcast that NAMFS was invited to with the MBA. MBA is hosting the podcast on property preservation needs. That's a big deal. So once we get engaged with some of the other industry trade organizations, then our voice does have a platform. And unfortunately, we have not had that platform, until very recently. So you wouldn't know that if you're not a member of NAMFS, right? So now is a good time to become a member of NAMFS so that we can get that opinion and that feedback as the executive team and make sure that when we participate on that podcast with MBA in a few weeks, that our voice is heard. Like, we want to have that one consolidated, unified voice, right, versus disparate opinions. So you wouldn't know that because you weren't a member of NAMFS, right? And then there's other initiatives like the marketing initiatives, the industry pricing or industry solutions. We're working on updating training. There are a lot of things behind the scenes that I think, I'll take the criticism, marketing can do a better job getting the message out of what we're working on. But even if we get the message out, if you're not a member, how are you going to know what we're working on? And if you're not a member, how are you going to give us an opinion on what we should be working on? So if you want us to change our direction, you got to show up and you got to participate.
Absolutely, thank you, Kelly. That was great. And Jeff, I had to come out and just meet you because we've corresponded via phone and via email, and it was a great opportunity to just come out and shake your hand. Yeah, absolutely. Would you like my mic? Hold on. Brandon, you're great at speaking and projecting, but just let's use the mic.
My first experience with NAMFS was probably 25 years ago.
Who had been to a NAMFS conference 20 to 25 years ago? Okay, great, small salary. I remember the president, past president, John Ward, passed away in 2013. I was a servicer, and I represented the largest portfolio of distressed assets in the country. So I walked in kind of like the rock star. Everybody wanted to meet Brandon because he ran default at Countrywide Home Loans, and he had 200,000 foreclosures. What I gathered from NAMFS being there, it was a large event, but all that was discussed was, how can I get more business? How can I absorb the business I have? There wasn't any conversation about how we can transform and improve the industry. 6 years ago, I got re-engaged with NAMFS. Now on the other side, the dark side, the vendor side. And under previous past leadership and current leadership, I can testify to you today that there are a lot of thought leadership specifically designed on how we can improve the industry for every level of vendor in the industry. But we're searching. I'm also a NAMFS board member, so one thing that we're trying to do is understand, Jeff, what do you need? We think we know what you need, but we don't want to be so arrogant that we're imposing upon you our initiatives that we think is going to benefit from you. We are organic, we are flexible, we are listening, because we do definitely want to respond to it. So that's my legacy response. My practical response is, in the last 2 or 3 meetings ago, a new member, hey, I'm a new member, I'm in this area. And I'm like, where you been all my life? And I signed them up and I started doing business with them instantaneously. Had they not come to NAMFS, they wouldn't have gotten my business. So that's a practical as well as kind of a legacy statement on it. But you're right, unless the memberships and proposed people feel like there's value, dollars are few. And so competing for those membership dollars are very, very tough. That's my perspective.
Thank you, Brandon. Yeah, the only other thing is we walk the mic around, Jeff, and really at large, I want to say is that one of the big concentrated efforts that we've made under our leadership and with the new leadership has really been, one, to focus our priorities, as I discussed, and I think you were at the conference maybe last year, but as I discussed at the conference last year, was my first year as the president of NAMFS, and I wanted to kind of talk about that. And then what we talked about, the success of that, and how that actually works, right? But a big piece of that was acknowledging we're imperfect, right? We are humans, we are imperfect, and we can't do it alone. And so my big message this year, and what I talked about yesterday, was one voice, right? We have to be one voice. A lot of us come here as competitors, for sure, which is great as long as it's honorable. But NAMFS gives us the opportunity to collaborate and be one voice. And so I would say all the regionals who are thinking about joining or rejoining, and anybody, not just regionals, come in. We got a big tent. We keep growing the tent. We want you here. We want your feedback, and we want to have that one voice. And the bigger that voice, the more impact that we can have as an organization. So thank you. Great question.
Yeah, let me just chime in with that as well. There's a lot of surveys. If you're a NAMFS member, there are a lot of surveys that Eric sends out to our membership asking for that feedback on many different topics. And if there are things that you're wanting to express concerns about the conference or concerns about networking, concerns about additional training opportunities, concerns about safety in the field, there are a lot of opportunities to express your take all of that feedback very seriously, and we really appreciate it. We want to know what you're thinking and how we can help you.
A tangible example of that is we kind of reorganized our committees this last year. There were some committees that really didn't add value. They were there because we always had that committee, so we should keep that committee. And with the narrowing focus of our priorities this year that Chad introduced, we reorganized the committees and formed a new committee, safety committee, that's led by Brandon. Obviously a very important topic. And we shut down committees that just didn't add value. And we did that because of the feedback that y'all sent us through the surveys.
Hey, excuse me, Jeff, the podcast, the last series, all discussed a little bit what you were asking about. So I don't know if you've been able to watch any. I would go back. When you have time, sit and watch them. There's some really good ones.
Hi, I'm Charles with Field Pros. We're regional out of Florida. I guess to piggyback a little bit of this conversation, initiatives, communication, conversation, they're all positives and they're all great and they're all moving in the right direction. I think the frustrating point as an AMPS member is, where are the deliverables? Where are the things that impact us when the rubber meets the road? I don't know that that's trickled down yet. We're still engaging in some very unsafe practices that are putting us at risk on the front lines. We're still, elephant in the room, we're still eating the gas costs that are eating away at our margins and putting us in the negative and putting us at risk as business owners. I think that's where me as a member, I'm looking for, where is that as a unified body? And again, I understand and appreciate all of the training, all of the initiative, all of the effort put into unifying a voice, but at some point that voice needs to yield results. And I think the common theme that I hear every year is, it's coming, we're working on it. A lot of effort is going into it, and we don't doubt that whatsoever, but where's the point of it actually coming to fruition?
Yeah, the length of time it takes to make these changes is unreasonable. If we ran businesses like the investors make decisions, all of us would be out of business. It is frustrating, Charles. I mean, Fannie Mae releases an updated pricing to their inspection prices, right? And it takes HUD 18 months to follow. Those timelines are unreasonable. I completely agree with you. Unfortunately, we're just starting with the catalysts of engaging with other industry trade organizations. So we really need to strengthen those partnerships. I mentioned the MBA, there's lots of them, right? NADAP and any acronym you want to use. Once those engagements begin is really when, the influence begins. But influence isn't a decision. It takes time, it takes active meetings, constantly following up, and engagement on a regular, consistent cadence, not just once a year at a conference like this, right? So the NAMFS team needs to do a very good job of taking advantage of the relationships that we've just built. And then from there, hopefully some of the deliverables make it down to the field.
I would add to that. I mean, I think Kelly talked a little bit about it yesterday. We still don't talk with one voice. I still see it as an opportunity. I hear so many conversations that I have where people talk about, well, I'll go ahead and do that for that price. We all know what the allowable one up to, 30 and 45. 30 and 45. Yet I still hear people doing stuff for $5.
Yeah,
that's not NAMFS.
It's outside of NAMFS where we might have a problem, the non-members willing to work for less.
That's not necessarily true. We have members here. The other thing that we do is we don't
I was
have
being diplomatic.
Yeah, no, we don't have one voice, because we also have within our membership people who will combat that message, that there is a challenge.
We need to prove that we are worth what we expect, and expect what we're worth and prove it. So it doesn't boil down to necessarily NAMFS. It's all of us valuing the people that work for us, and realize our clients might be asking for a Maserati and we're accepting a Hyundai price. So that's why we're talking like this.
What's wrong with Hyundais? I don't know.
All right, I'll
Pretty
pick that one out of
economical, Bill.
business.
What I'll say is, and thank you for the question and all the feedback. Another thing that we've really worked with, and I've talked with Eric, I think it was very close to my first day, right before I got into the tornado, right? Because I was out in the field. But I think it was my first day. I was talking with, or very close to it, I was talking with Eric, and I told him, we have to level set with our membership. We have to say what we can actually control, what we can impact, right? And then the things that we can't, how can we bring visibility to that? And I'm with you. I sat in the conferences and we talked about pricing, and I brought up the magic word, so we're probably gonna get beat up quite a bit, but hopefully not NAMFS gets beat up, because we come and work on that, right? There's only so much that we can do within that area. You say unsafe, safe conditions in the field, talk about eating gas prices. I say absolutely. We totally recognize that. We feel that when I go into the field personally, which I do a lot, ask my team, it's unsafe. I get into certain conditions where I'm like, whoa, this is not good, or somebody comes up behind me and I'm like, don't do that. Not smart, right? And so like we recognize that. The other thing we recognize is that with different guidelines and regulations, right, it is a big, big lift to change. And to give you an example of that is the inspection pricing that NAMFS worked very hard and was a part of that solution back then, right, to get that changed. The lift to that was extreme. And so when I was talking with Eric, I said, hey, we have to level set with our members and tell them, can I go, do I have the power and authority to go to, say, a HUD and say, hey, change your pricing. It hasn't changed in my lifetime, a lot of it. No, they're gonna, I wouldn't even get through the front door probably, right? And so we said, okay, so what's the next best thing that we can do? We can come together. Again, I know we talk about one voice and wanting to see the impact of that, but we see the impact in the engagement, the growth in the engagement that I showed yesterday. We see that impact, and the louder that we are able to get together, right, the more engagement that we get, and that's how we get on the radar. That's how we're able to do the writing that we did, the publication that we did on pricing, and kind of keep driving that emphasis. So if I was going to tell you that, yes, NAMFS is going to go and we're going to get all these pricing increases and everything like that, I would be lying to you, and I'm not a liar. If I were to tell you that we are going to give it every single thing that we have, get into every single meeting that we can, write publications, do the research, and constantly beat that drum, that would be the truth. And I'm an honest guy. So that's exactly what we'll continue to do. Does it help you today in terms of your expense for gas? It doesn't, and I'm sorry, right? That doesn't help any of us. It's tough. It's very tough, right? But through NAMFS, we're able to constantly bring that up and in a capacitative way, right? With capacity. And we're going to continue to do that. The other thing I would say is regarding some of the things that you have, I would ask that you get involved with us, right? You talk safety. I know Brandon's always looking for folks to join the safety committee. And I'm not saying spend a bunch of time, because it is volunteer work and time is money in this business, 100%. But I would ask that you get involved, and we'll always, specifically under our leadership here, be straight with you, right? And say we got to bring value, and our biggest value is our ability to bring visibility to our collective issues.
I said, no, and I understand completely. Obviously, the pricing is, but so much you can do to loosen the servicer's pockets, right? I know that there's a safety, the results of the safety survey are coming up here later in a later session, and I'm hopeful that we start to put the effort towards the things that we can control, right? Talking these servicers out of stopping to require these door knocks. There's other ways to get consistent, actual, credible results, other than requiring a door knock that puts people at risk. There's tools out there that are almost going to do our jobs for us, so we can run these pictures through some type of AI that says, hey, there's been no change in 2 inspections, go back, or something to that effect. There's a solution out there that doesn't put the inspector and the boots to the ground at risk. You don't know how many times I'm pushing back on my clients because we've got an unsecure property and they're saying, hey, client needs inspection, the interior done, you got to go back. Those are the types of things that we, I think, as a body, can go back and get in front of the individuals that are requiring these types of actions. I heard I missed a no trespassing conversation yesterday, which is also a common theme. These are things that I think we can deliver on. We can get in front of the right people and show them a better way, and maybe get them on board with adopting something that isn't going to put us at risk, and we're still going to be able to do our jobs.
You're absolutely correct. Yesterday, I think it was, or I know it was, our last panel of the day with the servicers, a trespassing conversation came up, and I was actually talking with my team yesterday evening, and I said, wow, that panel reminded me of the thought that I've had for a long time, and that is the thought of opportunity for engagement with servicers, right? I feel like we're kind of a triangle, and so you have a servicer, right? You have field services, and I feel like there's an opportunity for the two of us, right, to work together. And I told my team, I said, it's crazy to me whenever I think about getting out in the field and how much of a benefit that would be. I got some clients that get out in the field regularly, and I can tell you in those relationships, those are the strongest relationships because we all understand each other. We understand, hey, this is kind of what it takes. This is the lift. This is what we have to go through on a daily basis. This is the routes that we drive. This is, the safety concerns that we have, quality, et cetera. And so I was just, as I was talking with my team, I said, man, I just think there's such an incredible opportunity for NAMFS to get together with servicers, our collective clients, whether you're working for a national or whoever, but to get out, out of this room, right, and get out into the field, get out into our communities and look at them and see what's going on, right? Because as I told my team yesterday, if I'm not in the field for 2 weeks, I start to feel it. I start to think, well, why can't they go there? Why can't they drive that? And then I get out in the field and I'm like, oh, and that would be why, right? And so if somebody's never been in the field, or maybe it's a 1-year thing type of deal, right? There's so much value lost in not doing it. And so I absolutely agree with you. And that was one of my takeaways again from yesterday. And I'm going to talk with the NAMFS leadership about is how do we really, up that engagement, because that's so important. It's visible and it's very, very valuable for our members because we're able to show them like, no, this is what we really go through, right? And here's some solutions that we have. So thank you. Anything else to add, team?
I'll get there.
I'm waiting for the softballs. I'm waiting for the softballs.
Over here.
Scott with Good Guys Services. I'm kind of taking it a different direction real quick. I'm new here, first year, first signing up, new member.
Welcome.
So, appreciate it. My question is, how do I maximize my membership with NAMFS? Things to use, to utilize, and if you could take it from there.
I can take it. Okay. Hey, Scott. I would say join a committee. And we're happy to create a new committee if you'd like to lead it. But join a committee. We have lots of initiatives going on, and it'd be great to have your input, especially because you're local in the field every single day. With your team and everything like that. So that would be suggestion number one. Number two, take some of the training classes, the NAMFS Academy training classes, and make sure your employees are taking the classes. It's very good information. I mean, many man hours have been put into pulling that training material together and keeping it current to reflect 2026. So I would say those two things would be super important. And then take advantage of the network, so you can log into your NAMFS account, and you can search for other vendors in Alabama, where you're at, or Tennessee, or wherever you want to expand to, and then call them up. Call them up and say, hey, what are you doing? Here's my challenge with no trespass signs, just because it's top of mind for everyone. Here's my challenge, how are you guys addressing it? What are hints and tips that are working for you? What software are you using? The software companies are all members of NAMFS, so you can get their contact information using the directory as well. So those would be my 3 tips.
Yeah, and just to chime in with that, thank you for helping out. You've been helping out a lot this time at the conference for your very first time being here. I really appreciate it. It's wonderful when people volunteer and want to be a part of it because you are meeting people through every different thing, whether you're at registration or you're helping out with some of the setup. You're meeting different people and having new experiences, new exposure. So that's a great way to be involved. And the podcasts, also listening to those, or even being on one potentially if you'd like to. The marketing committee would be thrilled if you wanted to participate on a podcast as well. But certainly the educational opportunities of listening to the podcasts that have already been recorded, are a great thing as well. And of course the surveys too.
That's wonderful, Nikki. I was just thinking, first time attendee, and we're getting ready to do some filming for the conference, right? Like post-conference, that'd be great. And it's a great way to bring visibility. You don't have to, no pressure, okay? But it's a great way to bring visibility also, to your business as well. And we love to highlight all of our members. So getting on the podcast, getting to talk about your business, how you do things, all that stuff. It's a good opportunity. And it's fun. They keep it pretty fun. I've been on a couple of them. They're a good time. Yeah, for sure. So thank you for the question. Thanks for coming. First timer. That's awesome. And you admitted it. A lot of people don't do that. But I respect that. Thank you.
Hopefully this works, yeah? Yep, okay. I just wanted to kind of go back to the item previously about collaboration with servicers. Like I said it yesterday, I'm saying to everybody, this has been very eye-opening for me, first time here, so like I said, thank you, Jody, for inviting me here. When going back to servicers, item that I would suggest is, it's always this, I don't want to say it's always, but it's the servicer, they're enforcing this, they're doing this. Try to get an understanding and appreciation of why. And I think that sometimes gets lost, that it's the client making us do this, the client saying do this. There's reasons why we are saying, hey, I don't know about the 150 checklist that I heard about yesterday, but there are things out there that we have to do it this way because we have to protect ourselves from any type of risk, audit, any compliance items. Do I think that there's opportunity? 100% I think there's some opportunity for some adjustments in it, but I would always strongly suggest when you do go back to the servicer is that definitely kind of see it from our shoes, because if you can see it from our shoes and then find a way to make it work for your side, that's where you're going to be successful. That's just a suggestion.
Yeah, and to chime in, thank you, Charles. That was great. Understanding the regs, I know there's been a lot of change in the industry and certain amount of turnover in the vendors in the field, some of the tenure that we used to have historically, based upon the circumstances and the lower volumes, some vendors are no longer participating. But it's very helpful to understand the regs, so a servicer might just be asking for compliance with their investor insurer guidelines. So it's not necessarily just the servicer wanting something, they're just needing to be certain that their claim can be filed for the maximum amount of the allowables. So having an understanding of what the requirements are from a mortgage servicing banking perspective, is very helpful. Thank you, Charles.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, Charles. When I was talking with my team yesterday, we talked about the value of the servicers, clients, getting into the field with us so we could see, or so that you all could see from our perspective, right? We also talked about the other side of that coin. We need to make sure that we're understanding from your side, like you're asking us to do things for a certain reason, right? There's certain guidelines for a certain reason. And so it's up to us to really try to understand that and take that away. And that's why I just really believe there's such an opportunity for us to collaborate together, because that's a true collaboration. You understand me, I understand you, right? I understand where you're coming from, you understand where I'm coming from, and then that's where collaborations blossom, right? And come together, and then we're able to truly solve for whatever issue is at hand. So great takeaway. I look forward to meeting you more as well, Charles. So thank you.
Yeah, I think just so that everybody's aware, I think that's a very, very key point to make, Chad. It starts out as a dialogue. It's a dialogue. I know we have a tendency, the need is immediate. It's kind of like walking up to somebody and then punching them in the nose and then going, hi, pleased to meet you, right? You start off, so if I come in with a hard, hey, I need this now, without having that dialogue or having that relationship, like the idea that we have with MBA, which will be a webinar. So that's kind of the thing that's really, really important. And I think, hearing some of these things, it brings possibilities with us being in Dallas. I know that there have been some thoughts in the past about doing some kind of roadshow. Maybe we could find some homes around here to go, invite people to attend, something along those lines, and explain kind of what they're seeing. But that's just for another day, so.
Right, thanks, Eric. And just a quick add to that for our membership, that path in terms of dialogue and collaboration, it's not always the quickest. In fact, it's never the quickest path. It's generally speaking the slowest path. But I think that there's true strength and diligence. It sets up for a strong relationship, right, down the line. And so while it is slower and trying to see the impacts, immediately, and we've been feeling it for years, right? It's really, really tough. But there is strength in that approach to lay that solid foundation and build off of it. No puns intended, right? Maybe a little bit. That's okay. I don't mind.
Haley Finkston with Genstone Field Services, formerly ZVN. I wanted to ask about beyond the knowledge sharing and the networking and all of the things that we do here, what are we, in particular, tangible actions are we doing as an organization to encourage new leadership? And how can we strengthen that?
That's a great question. Thanks, Haley.
When you refer to leadership, leadership where?
Talking about younger people living in our industry and in particular in
It's very interesting. We were just talking about this last night. There is a dearth of younger people. I don't see any coming in. The particular problem we have is where we're located in the Northeast, a lot of the talented people have left. They've gone to other states. So I don't have an answer for you, and it would be something we have been discussing it, but I don't know what the fix is myself.
I would just add, it was not one of our top priorities in 2025 through now. I mean, we narrowed our focus on what we wanted to focus on, and new recruitment just didn't make the list. So maybe we can consider it for a survey for next year's focus, if that's something that the collective group would like to prioritize.
Yeah, thank you, Kelly. And what I'll say is that new recruitment didn't make the list just based on the feedback and how we prioritized. As I said yesterday, our membership still grew, which is pretty awesome. And so I think, in that approach and looking, obviously a lot of those priorities were driven by our membership. This is what we want to see. This is where we're concerned. But also, we look at the marketing committee, and even for us, right, creating a stronger foundation. We had a strong foundation as NAMFS. We've had some great leaders and all that good stuff, but create an even stronger foundation so then we can go and deploy it. It's kind of like with my company, we took a year at one point and I said, okay, the number one focus is operations. It's got to be perfect. I want to see it perfect. And once it's perfected, I mean, obviously we weren't perfect because we're humans, but once it was really good, really great, I said, great, let's go sell it and take it to more communities. Now I can sell this, right? And now I can get out there and I can work in these communities and I feel good about the work I'm doing. Same thing with NAMFS. Making sure that we create and strengthen that foundation so that we can then make recruitment. And that's a great takeaway, I think, for 2026 is to really dive into the recruitment piece of it and start using our new logos and new taglines so people understand this isn't just mortgage field services. That's not all it is now. It's asset management. It's field services across the board because that's how we've evolved as an industry mostly, right? And so I think that's great. The other thing I would say is for any of you who are not just young leaders, but leaders or aspiring leaders, or someone that is an aspiring leader, they want to engage in NAMFS, reach out to us. Reach out to Eric. Reach out to me. I absolutely love and I am honored, you can ask my team, to be a part of anybody's growth journey because it's very important, it's thrilling, it's a lot of fun, and so I am always happy to engage with anybody that says, hey, I want to go and I just want to crush it. Like, let's go, right? I'm happy to help mentor and work through that and get those folks involved.
You got time for one more? So Phil?
Of course.
Thank you. Phil Johnson with Solid Foundations, Inspections, Prop Pres. I'm one of those 20-plus year guys. And we're in the mid-cycle, off-cycle election year. I just completed a stint as a state delegate, and in that role, I was responsible for vetting the candidates both at the U.S. congressional level as well as the state level. And I was absolutely dumbfounded by the lack of understanding of our leaders around the entire housing puzzle. I'll call it that. They talk about affordable housing, but that's as far as their depth goes. And I think that NAMFS, all of us in this room here, we have the potential to be ambassadors of educating the local leaders, our state leaders, our congressional leaders, and we have power. There's a lot of power in the communications, the emails, the phone calls, the text messages, however we choose to communicate with our governmental leaders. But I think there's a role for NAMFS to help organize and bring us all together around a common message that we all then can in turn communicate through our various representatives in government that I think can make a big difference. Because I'll tell you, what I'm hearing in my district, in my precinct, affordable housing, infrastructure, what are we going to do with all of our children that can't afford homes? And I think we have in this industry a key role to play. And I think in thinking about how do we move from talking to doing, this would be a great opportunity, I think. Wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Hey, Phil, I think you just volunteered to head the Political Action Committee.
Sign me up.
I will join it.
I know we've met, but
That's all I got.
Yeah.
Yeah, Phil, I think that's a great, I think it's a great idea. I mean, between our membership areas, right, and how we go all the way from local all the way up to national, I think that there's a huge opportunity for us to have that ability to engage in all the communities that not only we live in, right, but if you're a local vendor where you live, or if you're a national vendor where you live, to engage and have those conversations. And I think that's something that we could probably put onto our list also for 2026 to kind of see how that is. I know we got the PA, we were asked about the PAC yesterday and what that kind of looks like. And so I definitely saw our wheels turning, right? Saying, okay, how can we kind of leverage this at our ability, right, within our scope? If I'm going to sit here and tell you that we're going to activate a multi-million-dollar PAC, that's not going to happen today yet. But as we grow the membership, absolutely, I think things like that can grow as well. So thank you, Phil. I appreciate that. All right, Eric, is that it?
Any other questions? I think we're good.
We're good?
Up at time.
We're good? We're right there? All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it. You know, whenever I was talking with Eric the other day, we were talking about this Q&A. He said, well, and I think he said it this morning too, well, we're either, sorry to walk in front of you. Well, we're either going to be really fast or it's going to be really, really long, and it seems like we hit the sweet spot. So stay away from my sports book, Eric. But seriously, I want to say thank you to all of you. Thanks for showing up. I know the 9 a.m. session after what was, I'm sure, was a lovely evening for everybody can be a little tough. So thank you for showing up, and thank you for asking questions and engaging. It is helpful. This is our association. When you're a member of NAMFS, it's all of our association. It's our responsibility. And like I said yesterday, with one voice, we can have true and realized impact. And that's very important. So have a great day too. I am excited for our sessions. I think it's going to be a great closing day. Thank you all so much.